Divorce and Proceedings. Page 393. Page 394. Page 395. Page 396. Page 397. Page 398. Page 399. Page 300. Page 400. Page 400. Page 401. Page 402. Page 403. Page 404. Page 405. Page 406. Page 407. Page 408. Page 409. Page 410. Page 411. Page 412. Page 413. Page 414. Page 415. Page 416. Page 417. Page 418. Page 419. Page 420. Page 421. Page 422. Page 423. Page 424. Page 425. Page 426. Page 427. Page 428. Page 429. Page 430. Page 431. Page 432. Page 433. Page 434. Page 435. Page 436. Page 437. Page 438. Page 439. Page 440. Page 441. Page 442. Page 443. Distinguished Senator Rochas Okorocha move for adoption of divorce and proceedings of Thursday.
Owele Anayo Rochas Okorocha, I rise to move for approval of the divorce and proceedings of this day. Well, this day, the Thursday, Mr. President, this day, the Thursday, 21st of November, 2019. So help me God.
Distinguished Senator Ezenwa Oyewuchi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ezenwa Francis Onewuchi. I represent Imo East Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion moved by Owele Rochas Okorocha. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 21st November 2019 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Thursday, 21st November 2019 is hereby approved. Distinguished colleagues, we have a slight technical challenge with our mics, so we'll need the next 2 minutes for them to fix it.
if you want.
Distinguished colleagues, I think we are good to go. Letter from Mr. President. Dear distinguished Senate President, submission of 2019 and 2020 budget estimates of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Pursuant to Section 18, Subsection 1 of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC Establishment Act, I forward herewith 2019 and 2020 budget estimates of the Niger Delta Development Commission for the kind consideration and passage by the Senate. While I trust that the Senate will consider this request in the usual expeditious manner, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Clerk, you have the point of order, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Einaya Baribe. I represent Abia South. Order 43, Mr. President. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, we have just heard from you the communication from the President of Nigeria. And this communication relates to the budget of NDDC. Of course, what it will mean is that the budget will go to the relevant committee of appropriation and the NDDC committee, and some person will come to defend the budget. Having regard to the fact that this Senate has confirmed members of the board of the NDDC, and they are yet to resume office. Mr. President, I fear that we may run into a problem of delayed budget again, since nobody will come to defend this budget. Because this August body, having confirmed the board of NDDC, will not countenance any illegal contraption coming in front of us to say that they are representing NDDC. I know that this may be preemptive, but our people say that if we do quick, we prevent disaster from coming. So to prevent a delayed budget for the NDDC, that is helping Nigeria to, for our revenues and everything, and also development of the region, it would be better for us to prevent this issue from coming and let the needful be done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much, Minority Leader. Because you have come under Order 43, this matter is not subject of debate. But let me sustain your point of order. In addition, let me say that for the first time, as far as I can remember, we are receiving the budget of the NDDC for 2020, the next year, at the right time. This is the first time ever, as far as I can remember. And this is a very good sign that we are operating at the same frequency with the executive arm of government, that we are in a hurry to deal with matters of budget because these are the issues that cause development in the country. Having said this, as far as we are concerned, this Senate knows that we have confirmed the request of Mr. President on the board membership of the NDDC. And we have communicated that the next logical thing to do by law is for the appointments of the members of the board to take immediate effect. I believe that the executive arm of government will attend to that quickly so that we have the right people to come and defend the appropriation request of Mr. President. Thank you. No. I took that point of order because it was specifically on this. So I have to go through the announcement first, and then petitions, then point of order. Thank you. A birthday wish. Yesterday, the 25th day of November 2019, was the birthday of our distinguished colleague, Senator Dalladi Abdullahi Sankara from Jigawa State. He's not around. On behalf of the Senate, I wish our distinguished colleague a very happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Congratulations. I have another letter from His Excellency Senator Theodi Aheme Fule Oji, CON, Ochendu, Abia Central Senatorial District. Distinguished senators, distinguished colleagues, invitation to a marriage feast. The seasons come and go, each marked by numerous events. As the hymnal states, count your blessings, name them one by one, it will surprise you what the Lord has done. In quotes. The Senator Oji family of Omakwe, Ogba, Inumahia, North Local Government of Abia State, in a word-ordained synergy with family of Sir Amobi Alphonsus Okobodo of Ekwerocha, Amokwahia, in Ihiti, Uboma, Local Government, Imo State, Ihiti, are inviting you to the marriage ceremonies of their illustrious, resourceful, and amiable son and daughter, Mr. Ogunna Oji and his heartthrob, Ms. Nkiru Okwabodu, in the following days and time. December 28, 2019, traditional ceremony at Ihiti, Uboma, Local Government Headquarters, Imo State. Time, 12 noon. January 18, 2020, white wedding at the National Ecumenical Center, Central Area, Abuja. Time, 12 noon. Wedding reception and international conference at International Conference Center, Abuja. Time, 2 p.m. More information is in the cards here attached. Join me as my distinguished colleagues to make their ceremonies memorable. Signed, Senator T.A. Oji, CON. Another letter. This one is from the youngest, one of the youngest deputy governors in the country, Senator Bio Barakuma W. Degi Eremeo. Your Excellency, notification of my election as Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State. I write with profound pleasure to notify Mr. President of the Senate and all the single senators of my election as Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State. It will be recalled that on the 9th of September 2019, I was nominated as running mate to the governorship candidate of my party, the All Progressive Congress, for the November 16 governorship election in Bayelsa State. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had successfully conducted the election as scheduled under a very peaceful atmosphere in which the APC won overwhelmingly by the grace of Almighty God. I have already received from INEC certificate of return as Deputy Governor-elect on the 19th of November 2019 and will subsequently tender my resignation at the appropriate time. While preparing for my inauguration bill for 14th of February 2020, I look forward to the sustenance of the warmth of friendship and cooperation with all my distinguished colleagues, even after disengagement from the Senate. Please accept assurance of my usual high regards and esteem. I remain sincerely yours, Senator Bio Barakuma Degi Eremenyo, Vice Chairman, Committee on Gas and Special Duties. Congratulations, distinguished colleague. Yet another, not yet, notice, and this is from Senator Dr. George Thompson Sekibo, CON, JP, Igbo Alabo of Ogu Kingdom, Chairman, Senate Committee on Navy. Notice of meeting. Investigative meeting of the Senate Joint Committee on Navy, Marine Transport and Finance holds today, 26th of November 2019 at 12 noon at the designated venue. Please attend promptly. Signed, Senator George T. Sekibo, CA1, JP. Juju priest? No. They say it's justice of peace, but if it is Juju priest, that's another, well, he doesn't look it. I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Holy Family Sisters of the Needy Catholic Archdiocese of Abuja, Jikoi, Abuja, who are here in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings today. You may stand up. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down, please. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of New Golden Prime Academy, Suleja, Niger State, who are also in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings today. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings today. You may sit down, please. And finally, I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Ekwa Yapui Memorial College, New Karu, Nasarawa State, who are also in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings today. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings today. You may sit down, please. Petitions. Senator Ayo, Patrick Ayo Akinyelure.
All over one, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Ayo Akinyelure. I represent Ondo Central. Mr. President, I have presentation of petition not laid or referred to the Committee of Ethics from the Office of the President of the Senate. The Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, in line with Order 41, 1 and 3, which is to present to the Senate some petition yet to be laid from the Office of the Senate President in order to officially place the petitions in the public domain through the floor of the Senate and for the votes on proceeding to capture their approval for referral. Mr. President, I have 11 petitions referred from your office to my office, and I want to formally lay this one before the Senate for official referral. I seek your indulgence, Mr. President, for allowing me to lay the petitions accordingly.
Yes, lay the report.
Mr. President, for avoidance of doubt, I want to formally read out the petitions. Number one, a petition from Shijoke Obina and Associates, Petition from Chijoke Obina Associates, the loan of 6.5 million naira grant, $6.5 million granted to him, and facilitator fee of $223 million due to his client, Alhaji Ibrahim Yerima. Number 2, an appeal to release the report of hearing conducted by the immediate past committee on public petition in the matter of negligent refusal by the management of Nigerian Liquidified Natural Gas Company Limited to pay accrued compensation for acquisition of right of way and loss of use of affected land by natural landowners of the 73 communities of Biafu, Soku to Boni in Rivers State of Nigeria. The petition was forwarded to the committee through the Office of Senate President by Chief Eyina Onegbo KSC. Number 3, Atwegu C. Okafo Esquire, a petition, a complaint against the destruction, total neglect, and abandonment of the people of Amabalu community in Ekeremo local government area of Bayelsa State after the federal government of Nigeria approved invasion of the community and massacre of Amabolu people in the year 2005. Number 4, a petition from Uche Ayogu Esquire and 4 others. Conspiracy so promoting native war, so persistent killing with lethal weapons and violence in Asuanocha community in Akwa North local government area of Anambra State. A passionate appeal for your swift intervention. Number 5, a petition written by Governor Diago, a complaint of fraud, criminal trespass, forgery, criminal assault, criminal intimidation, abuse of office, disregard of rule of law under the cover of being EFCC staff against Olorunfemi Eunice, Oluwafumilayo, and EFCC staff. Number 6, Eric Agumoyi Esquire on behalf of Ondo State. Petition from Eric Agumoyi Esquire on behalf of Ondo State on neglect, marginalization, and unjust treatment of Ondo State by NIDA. Number 7, a petition written by J.U. Ayogu and Co. Conspiracy, assault, trumped up charges, fundamental rights infringement by Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and DGM Transport Services Limited on Akpa Ode. Number 8, a petition written by Sergeant Yetunde Oladimeji. Petition in respect to the dismissal of ex-F number 0447W Sergeant Yetunde Oladimeji from the Nigerian Police Force. Number 9, a petition written by Maxwell Kweon Esquire on behalf of Alhaji Sani Dauda, MON. Petition from Maxwell Kweon Esquire on behalf of Alhaji Sani Dauda, MON, on complaint bordering on intimidation, harassment, and reckless or gross violation of office by the Inspector General of Police. Number 10, petition from Sigad Esquire, an illegal order of Rivers State House of Assembly against the operation of Amni International Petroleum Nigeria Company Limited, operator of offshore Tubu oil field, covered under oil mining list of OML 52 within Adoni territory of Rivers State for avoidance of crisis in Adoni territory of Rivers State. And finally, Mr. President, number 11, petition from Honorable Robinson Uwak against Ibrahim Magu and Ibanga Akpabio, conspiracy to commit murder, so gross abuse of office, so compromise, so obstruction of justice. These are the 11 petitions, Mr. President. I hereby seek the indulgence of the Senate President to permit me to lay the petitions accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Please let the reports. Let the petitions run. The petitions are hereby referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions to report in 4 weeks. Any more petitions? Point of order, Senator George Thompson Sekibo, CONJP.
Mr. President, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo, Commander of the Order of the Niger and Justice of the Peace. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 42 and 52. If you permit me, may I read, please?
Go ahead.
The matter of urgent public importance, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting. The President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Mr. President, I will leave for this, but I go to 52. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion in respect of any proceedings for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, I have discussed with you last week, and I want to bring a petition on curbing electoral violence. Having seen in the recent election the display by thuggery in disturbing the electoral processes. So if you allow me, and if the Senate allow me, I can bring up the motion.
Why so late?
Well, on my part, you have my support, but you need the support of at least 1/5 of senators. So that's the next hurdle. So those in favor of the motion that he brings his motion under orders 42 and 52, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, motion on curbing electoral violence. The Senate is aware that election is an integral part of the democratic process to enable the citizenry determine fairly and freely who should lead them periodically at every level of government and take decisions that will shape their socioeconomic and political destiny. Aware further that for a sound democratic growth, development and stability, and engendering the process of recruiting political leadership in a democratic society or setting, general election is bound to hold periodically as prescribed by the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Agrees that Nigerian elections are stained with electoral violence that predate this fourth democratic dispensation, which commenced in 1999, as earlier elections in the First, Second, and Third Republics experienced similar dimensions of violence, which usually resulted in the loss of lives and destruction of properties. Believes that democratic growth, development, and stability comes through a learning process. However, such a learning process should be able to advance the positive element of the lessons that could foster the needed development and stability for national cohesion, integration, and unity. Notes, however, the election in the Fourth Republic from its commencement in 1999 has been stained with electoral violence, which has risen in each successive election to an unimaginable dimension that death toll is skyrocketing and becoming a norm with successive elections, as though killing and destructions are part and parcel of the electioneering process, and it must be so. Observed through a flashback that, according to the United Nations Institute of Peace, in 2003 and 2007, 100 and 200 persons died, respectively, through election-related violence in the country. However, in 2011, post-election violence that took place in 3 days claimed about 800 lives, and properties that runs to billions of naira were destroyed. Observes further that according to National Human Rights Commission, between January and February 2015, about 58 people were killed in 61 incidents of electoral violence across 22 states in the country, while the National Security Tracker, NST, documented 106 election-related deaths, out of which 64 were killed months preceding the elections. 44 persons also died in the 2 weeks following the elections, and most of these deaths were carried out by armed thugs. Notes that armed thuggery has increased more in 2019 compared to previous elections, with privileged politicians using either armed thugs or security agents to disrupt smooth electioneering processes. Notes further the recent cannibalistic action of armed thuggeries carrying out carnage on each other before, during, and after the elections in Bayelsa and Kogi states in the just concluded election. This has called for the question, which way are we going as a country? Believes that the resultant effect of the electoral mayhem will reduce the credibility of our electoral process and deepen hatred, as well as widen the gap of our unity. Believes further that the country's electoral management body is not strong enough to withstand the pressure exerted by the political system and the electoral misconduct that accompany it, continue to strengthen the deepening of the democratization process. This negative effect of electoral violence in the country will continue to reduce the citizens' confidence in the democratic process, as well as heighten the fears of possible democratic collapse. Agrees that to continue to exist as one united nation and deepen our democratic gains, it has become imperative that every Nigerian must be involved in curbing the excesses of the IPs of electoral violence in the country. The Senate accordingly resolved to 1. Condemn the spate of killings in electoral-related violence in the country. Observe a minute silence in honor of those that lost their lives in the just concluded Bayelsa Kogi elections and all previous elections. 3. Urge the National Orientation Agency and the Independent National Electoral Commission to carry out continued campaign against electoral violence in subsequent elections. Mr. President, I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Aine Abaribe. I represent Abia South. I want to thank our colleague and friend, Thompson Sekibo, for bringing yet this matter of electoral violence to the fore. A few days ago, elections held, and we had also had to go and condemn, especially the post-election violence that even led to the burning alive of a woman leader in Kogi State, which has led to widespread condemnation everywhere. Resort to violence at every point can never be countenanced by any Democrat. The point of democracy is contestation of ideas and then letting the people have the ability to be able to make choices, and those choices should be reflected on the ballot box, not choices that are now going to be forced on people through violence. So we join our friend to condemn in no uncertain terms this resort to violence that we have seen. I've listened very carefully to what he has said. I don't agree with the last part. The last part where he says, let's just leave the National Orientation Agency and INEC to do something. That is not the point. The point is that people have been known and seen to perpetuate violence. Nothing has been done to them, and once nothing is done to somebody, once nobody pays a price for criminality of this nature, it only breeds further violence. And so, what we should also add there is that the law enforcement agencies must be up to task. The husband of the woman that was killed in Kogi has identified those who came and did this dastardly act, but nothing till today. We have not heard. All that we have been hearing is all manners of excuses for that. And we will also say this: where there is now a pattern, if you don't curb it through the use of law enforcement, you will only see that pattern continue to grow. And we would want to urge all the legal instruments that can be used in this country to be able to curb electoral violence today. Thank you.
Senate Leader.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I would like first to express my appreciation and gratitude to distinguished Sam Tun Sekibo for rising to once again bring to our attention this very disturbing specter of violence during electioneering processes in this country. This has been with us for a long time, and particularly since the emergence of this republic in 1999. Mr. President, the specter of violence and its attendant consequences is one of the most unhealthiest events in our polity, and for which I think all of us politicians, irrespective of the party to which we belong, have a responsibility to address and to curb. Otherwise, we may also become its victims. We are riding on the back of a tiger. If we don't take care of the direction which it will move, it will also swallow us. So, Mr. President, at this point, I would also like to really express my appreciation and also gratitude to the point that the minority leader has raised. The need for us to get the security agencies to really do their jobs. Our failure to prosecute and punish the perpetrators of electoral violence who are known is going to lead to the perpetration of this act because it adds to the impunity of the process. Therefore, I think it is important if the minority leader and myself can come up with a bipartisan bill to look at the punishment for electoral violence and see how we can raise a law in this particular chamber and also in the Federal House of Representatives to really take due note of this process and prescribe a legal regime that's going to be able to address it. Electoral violence knows no partisanship. Let's be very, very clear about it. All the politicians on all sides are guilty. Violence did not start when APC came to power. Violence started, as I said, from the beginning, particularly it got bad from the beginning of our democratic journey from 1999. Of course, there were some pockets of violence in the previous democratic experiences, but they have not been as bad and terrible as they are today. If we don't curb this particular phenomenon, it's going to be very dangerous for our polity. So, Mr. President, I want to sympathize for all those who were maimed and those who lost their lives, and also to invite my colleagues to look at this thing as a danger to the entire polity and not to make it a partisan matter. It is not. It is not a partisan matter. Therefore, for us, we should take responsibility and come out with necessary legislation that will go a long way in curbing this very, very ugly trend in our political process. I thank you, Mr. President.
We'll go to the prayers. Accordingly, resolved to 1, prayer 1, condemn the spate of killings and election-related violence in the country. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, observe a minute's silence in honor of those that lost their lives in this just concluded Belsa and Kogi elections and all previous elections. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the National Orientation Agency, NOAA, and Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to carry out continued campaign against electoral violence in subsequent elections. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer. Minority Leader.
The additional prayer is urge the security agencies to expeditiously apprehend perpetrators of electoral violence in all the areas where they are and charge them accordingly.
Senator Biodun Olujumi, can you second, please, the additional prayer?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Biodun Olujimi, Ekiti South, I will reluctantly second that.
No, you don't have to do that reluctantly. If you don't want to second the additional prayer by Minority Leader, you can sit down and somebody else will do that. Can you second the additional prayer reluctantly? Those in favor of the additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer. Well, Senator Gershom Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassi, Cross River South. I think there was also post-election violence. So we need to observe a 1-minute silence as well for the PDP woman leader who lost her life in post-election violence.
That's the second prayer. Additional prayer, please. Well, distinguished colleagues, before we do the 1-minute silence, let me say that this is a very important motion. And of course, the minority leader as well as the Senate leader spoke the minds of all of us here. No party is absolved from this blame, and it is for us politicians to ensure that we continue to enlighten our people to face politics as a game of ideas. I believe that those who perpetrated the violence, especially in the last elections in Belsa and Kogi, should be apprehended and prosecuted. And I believe that this is the way to go. People should pay the price of their actions. With this, let me call on us for 1 minute's prayer, observance of 1 minute silence. May the souls of our departed compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Point of order.
Point of order, Senator Barrow Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I come under Order 43. With your permission, I read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when the leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, thank you very much for giving the opportunity, and I want to use this opportunity as the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations to update the Senate on the state we are in the processing of the 2020 appropriation bill.
Mr. President, we've been able to collate all the reports of the subcommittees, and we've so far analyzed these reports. We've been having sleepless nights, and we've been able to put everything together with a team of experts. Mr. President, with the stage we are now, is where we've done everything in respect to the process. What remains now is to cross-check and make sure that there's no mistake, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. Thereafter, we'll now go to print, because we want to submit the report with the details. And this, what remains now will take us up to Sunday next week. So by Monday, we should be able to have the clear report, the clean details and everything, and then we lay on Tuesday. So I just feel it's good I inform this August Senate so that you know where we are and what we are doing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, because you have come under 43, this is not subject to debate. But if I understand you right, you are working with your colleague in the House of Representatives. Is that correct? The Chairman, House Committee on Appropriations. And of course, Tuesday will be the 3rd of December, is unfailingly. Chairman Finance, are you part of it? Because you are oh, okay. Okay. So the Senate will give you an additional week, but that is unfailingly. Tuesday next week will be 3rd of December 2019. And by the grace of God, we should be able to lay it here, and then the Senate should pass it within that week, by the grace of God. Point of order, Senator Betty Apiafi.
President of the Senate, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Betty Apiafi. I represent Tabua Odrella. Sorry, I'm from Rivers West Senatorial District. I always forget I'm no longer in the House of Representatives. Mr. President, I come under Order 42, and if you permit me, I'd like to add Order 52 to discuss a matter of urgent national importance.
Tell us what it is. Give us a summary. Your mic.
The 5th of November every year is set aside to celebrate the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women. And that was yesterday. So, my motion is on that.
Well, I'll put the question, but I'm sure you will get the right answer. Those in favor that we allow our distinguished colleague, Senator Betty Apiafi, to move her motion under Orders 42, 52, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can move your motion.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the motion is 2019 International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The theme for this celebration is Orange the World. Generation Equity, Stand Against Rape. And the Senate notes that the United Nations General Assembly designated 25th of every year as International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women in its resolution 48/104 of 20th December 1993. The premise of the day is to raise awareness to the fact that women around the world are subject to various forms of violence, rape, domestic violence, trafficking for sexual and domestic slavery with impunity. The Senate further notes that the theme for this year's deliberation is Orange the World. Generation Equality, Stand Against Rape. The theme is very apt as it speaks to the issues of rape, which has assumed an alarming and unprecedented dimension in our nation. The Senate further notes that the orange color has been adopted globally due to what it represents in nature. The color orange combines red and yellow to give an alluring look, which is said to represent emotional strength in difficult times. We hope that this year's theme, Orange the World, will give some hope to victims of rape. The Senate is aware that violence against women and girls is the most pervasive human rights violation As representatives of the people, the Ninth Senate shall continue to do whatever it takes to stop this menace. We shall not allow people to blame indecent dressing among women as the cause of rape. The cases of rape of 2-week-old and 6-month-old babies, or rape of 60 to 80 years old women clearly tells us this menace is more deeply rooted. The Senate is further aware of the recent attack and burning to death of our sister and mother, Mrs. Salome Abu, the PDP woman leader in Kogi state election. The attack and humiliation of female candidates in the same election. The death of Ochanya Elizabeth Obanja, a 13-year-old junior secondary school student of the Federal Government College, Boko, who died as a result of complications from various forms of sexual violence, rape, abuse by her uncle and cousin. The BBC Sex for Great saga, and many more of such deep-rooted violence against women and rape, which has reached unprecedented level in our nation. The Senate is concerned that in the year 2019, we remained a remarkable year in the history of Nigeria, as the issue of rape and violence against women reached a climax, revealing the hydra-headed monster we have been dealing with over time. The Chrisland School Lagos rape case, where a teacher defiled a 2-year-old and was jailed for 60 years. The Ekiti State conviction in favor of a 7-year-old girl raped by a 53-year-old man, and so many more such cases, reported and unreported. The trafficking of persons for sexual and domestic slavery has also taken a toll on our communities. The recent slave camps discovered in Kano, Oyo, and Kaduna states, where young boys and girls are held as slaves and constantly raped by those who are meant to take care of them. All these show that our women, minors, both male and female, are no longer safe in our communities, homes, schools, and worship places. The Senate commends all concerned stakeholders, both local and international, who made it possible for the launch of the Nigerian Sexual Offenders Register, which was launched yesterday. The launch of the register is a major step in the fight against this menace that has bedeviled our society. The register is a database of all sexual offenders categorized as those who have been convicted and those who are linked with sexual offenses. This is in line with Section 1, 4, and 42 of the Violence Against People Prohibition Act 2015. Alongside the Sexual Offenders Register is a database of service providers, professionals, and caregivers that citizens can report sexual violence to, and even perpetrators can also approach for advice and support. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1, condemn the killing of Mrs. Salome Abu, the PDP woman leader who was set on fire in her home and allowed to die in the most gruesome way, and observe a minute silence in her honor. 2, urge the Inspector General of Police to ensure the arrest and prosecution of all those involved in the murder of Mrs. Salome Abu. The Senate also condemns the violence against female candidates in the just concluded Kogi state elections. 4, the Senate felicitates with Nigerian women on this year's International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The Senate also commends stakeholders, both local and international, for the launch of the Sexual Offenders Register yesterday, the 25th of November, 2019. Finally, the Senate urged states who are yet to domesticate the Child Rights Act of 2003 and the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 to do so for the socio-economic development of their states and the nation at large.
Senator Biodun Olujimi, I'm sure you didn't raise your hand reluctantly.
This one is willingly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Biodun Olujimi, Ekiti South. I'm doing this willingly, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to second this motion as moved by Senator Betty Apiafe.
And I want to thank her for bringing this up again today, because it buttresses the fact that we have problems, we have issues, and we need to talk about these issues so that we can also find reasons for laying them away. Mr. President, as you know, we're battling so many things, especially as women. Violence against women, rape, taking undue advantage of our gender is a major problem in our country. And right now, the elections have even opened us up to worse cases of violence, especially that of the woman leader of the PDP in Kogi State. Mr. President, going through this motion, I have seen that something serious is being done, especially as concerns the Nigerian Sexual Offenders Register. And I am urging the people in charge of the register to kindly include men of influence who are involved in all this misconduct. Mr. President, the time has come for Nigeria to take a serious stance against violence, against rape, and especially during elections. I believe that our colleagues will support this motion, and I know that going forward, Nigeria needs to sit together and do something about violence, especially violence against women and children. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kejev.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okejev, I represent Benue Northwest. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I rise to identify and support this motion on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Mr. President, if you listen to the news or you watch the news these days, you'll be alarmed at the rate and volume of violence against women. Mr. President, you have read of cases where women are abducted just to harvest their private organs for whatever that is used for. Mr. President, there's a case, a harrowing case of a woman from Benue State who was kidnapped and for three months was used as a sex slave. As she recounted her story, she said she was lucky to have escaped alive because right there in the camp, lots of women were used in similar fashion and some killed after that. So you begin to ask yourself, what kind of country are we living in now? When you have months-old babies raped, you have children raped, and then you have women raped. I understand they now harvest underwears of women too, for whatever purposes that those are used for. So I think this is a matter we should take to the front burner, not just on this day that has been targeted by the United Nations for the elimination of violence against women, but every other day, so that we get to eliminate some of these days from, some of these practices. It is not just about this motion, it's about getting the agencies concerned, like national orientation agencies, to drum it into the ears of those who are into such practices, that it's a new wind that blows nobody any good. So I want to identify with this motion, and I've gone through the resolution that I sought, and I support all of them. I also ask my colleagues to support this motion because it's very, very important in the light of what we are witnessing today. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing Kogi East. I want to thank the promoter of the last motion in respect of the violence, electoral violence, especially the one that has to do with Kogi State. and in particular, the woman in question. I want to say it here that that woman only happened to be a victim of the circumstance. She was a very peace-loving woman. And the attack on her was a retaliatory attack. An attack was mounted on supporters of APC after Yaya Bello was declared the winner of the election in her area. 2 people almost died. They are still on danger list in the hospital, arising from that attack. It was a retaliatory attack on PDP members, and unfortunately, she became the victim. Very painful. Way forward, Mr. President, I want to believe that there is an urgent need for a bill in respect of election violence in Nigeria. A bill that will institute various deterrent measures. A bill that will address pre-election, during election and post-election violence in Nigeria. I almost lost my life during the last election in Kogi State. Some people are still on danger list. One person died yesterday arising from the violence. And I think the same thing also happened at various locations in Bayelsa State. I want to propose that, way forward, there should be sanctions that will act as deterrent to an occurrence of any form of violence before, during, and after elections in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, before I call any additional contributor, let me redirect our debate. This motion is not about violence, electoral violence. This motion is about violence against women. So I think the mover of the motion only used the example of that thing. So let's not confuse this motion from the one that we took before it. Very distinguished Senator James Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. James Ebiowo, Manager, CON Delta South. Mr. President, first, as a seasoned lawmaker yourself, particularly after listening to the last speaker, you needed to redirect the House. And that is understandable, Mr. President, because the last speaker specifically brought out the Kogi one as an example and also gave reasons why it happened. So that naturally would elicit reactions. And because you are a seasoned lawmaker now presiding, you knew or you know what is likely to come after his contribution. And I'm sure you have directed us well. Having said that, Mr. President, in the society we live in, whether anybody likes it or not, where there is a man, there is a woman. And where there is a woman, there must be a man. These two must be together at all times. Otherwise, there will be no society. And if you remember your Bible or the Quran, or all the religious books, you know how God created this world. And the way God created this world from the beginning, that is how it has always been. And it will continue to be so. And believe you me, between a man and a woman needs all the protection from a man. God created the world like that. And therefore, at every given point in time, there is this struggle on the part of women to be recognized, to be respected. And that is the very essence of this motion. and of course brought to the Senate by no other person than the chairman, Senate Committee on Women Affairs. And the members of the committee, which of course includes all the women. And there are some other men who, who also tie apart like women. It has always been so on the floor of the Senate. It has always been so, and those who move very close to women at all times, they are also members of the committee. So, Mr. President, that struggle, we must encourage it. We must do everything humanly possible for women to get to where they must be. And we hope and pray that one day there must be an elected governor of a state that is a woman. Not indirectly, like what happened in Anambra State. One day, starting from the state, one day, we must aspire to ensure that one day a woman will lead this country. The men have been leading, and the results are there for everybody to see. So one day, let us actually try a woman to lead this country. Mr. President, the mover of this motion also brought out the Kogi example. In a way, although you have directed it out, let us at least protect women at all times. The Kogi case was most unfortunate, and I condemn it. In everything in me, I condemn it. Whether it is retaliatory or else, that must never happen. And I want to agree with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those who did that act, this dastardly act, they must be brought out. And if they have been arrested, as reported in the media, they must be paraded for everybody to see. That is the first step. And the police usually celebrate parading suspects. This one, I have not seen that. This one must not be swept under the carpet. For a woman to be burned to death, I think it's an abomination. Mr. President, having said all that, I support this motion, and I want to urge my respected colleagues to also support the motion, so that let the women get to where they should be. At least one day, Alero, who is a distinguished senator today, will allow a woman to take over from him. So that one day, the Senate President, who has been here for the past 20 years or so, he will allow a woman to take over from him. Mr. President, having said all that, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Roger Sokoroja.
It should be you first now. Mr. President, Roger Sokoroja, Imo West. I really wonder, anytime issue of women come up, it creates some kind of laughter and in the minds of men. But the motion before us is too serious, because we are talking about not just women, our mothers to be, or even our mothers. And I know that every senator here is directly or indirectly too close to the mother. And we know that as growing up kids, you don't dare abuse my mother and go free, but you can abuse my father, and I will not respond to you. That tells how important women are in society and to us generally. But I think it's high time, Mr. President, that we listen to women of Nigeria particularly and make a loud condemnation of this violence against women. Most of us do not know that women are going through a lot of emotional torture. Women go through a lot in our political system, in our social life system, because somehow I don't think our nation have taken this matter seriously. It's becoming like a national anthem that when we say it and everybody just sing it anyhow. But I think we should listen to this motion and first of all, as the Senate, totally condemn this and dramatize it. And those who do this will be the men and leaders of our society. But for some reason, most men believe that women under. I agree, but it's not the case because they're also human. My dear sister, distinguished senator, I support you in this motion, but I think a step should be taken further by women of Nigeria. Because if there are cooperations among the women, I'm sure the women will defeat the men. But first of all, also preach the gospel that women must come together to fight this, not just a lonely voice. Because the 13-year-old girl raped, immorality everywhere, decay of morals in our society, 2-year-old baby. We hear all these cases, and somehow it's swept under the carpet as if it is nothing. Are we waiting until it becomes our daughters and our wives and our mothers that are directly involved that before we can react? I think the time has called for urgency now that we should address this issue of violence against women, whether emotionally or physically against any woman. And Mr. President, though you have spoken on the issue of Kogi, we have talked about it, but people should be raising this up. When things of this nature come, let us not politicize it. Let's condemn it. It's not political. It has nothing to do with politics. Once death comes into a matter, irrespective of your party affiliation, we must condemn it totally. And there's no excuse whatsoever. No one should make an excuse or make it look like it has been a tradition. It's not just a tradition. Even if it's a tradition, it must stop. That nobody's blood should be led for issues of election. And our electoral act must be guided accordingly. So we can stop this violence and hate in our political practice. And who are we deceiving? We're deceiving the society. Today we're PDP, tomorrow we're APC, tomorrow we're APC, tomorrow we're PDP, which means we're looking for opportunity to just get to power without considering the impact of the negativity on the promises of Nigeria. So I support you, madam, that this issue must be taken to a higher level and the Senate must lead the campaign against violence on women. Thank you.
We'll go to the prayers. Prayer 1. Condemn the killing of Mrs. Salome Abu, the PDP woman leader who was set on fire in her home and allowed to die in the most gruesome way, and observe a minute's silence in her honor. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the Inspector General of Police to ensure arrest and prosecution of all those involved in the murder of Mrs. Salome Abu. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Condemn violence against female candidates in the just concluded Kogi state elections. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Felicitate with Nigerian women on this year's International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5. Commend stakeholders, both local and international, for the launch of the Sexual Offenders Register yesterday, the 25th of November 2019. Those in favor of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 6. Urge states who are yet to domesticate the Child Rights Act 2003 and the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act VAPP 2015 to do so for the socio-economic development of their states and the nation at large. Those who have the prayer 6 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 1 minute silence. May the gentle soul of Mrs. Salome Abu rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill sent in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Adaeze Odua on the Protection of Personal Information Bill 2019. Mr. President, we may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Protection of Personal Information Bill 2019, SB 7, first reading.
Protection of Personal Information Bill 2019, SB 7 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Uba on the Erosion Control and Prevention Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Erosion Control and Prevention Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 142, first reading.
Erosion Control and Prevention Commission Establishment, ETC Bill 2019, SB 142, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Mpigi Barinada on the Federal University of Environment Technology, Sakperwa, Tai Ogoni, River State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Environmental Technology, Sakperwa, Tai Ogoni, River State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 200, first reading.
Federal University of Environmental Technology, Sakperwa, Tai Ogoni, River State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 200, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Obasani on Federal College of Forestry Technology Research, Bindingwari, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Bindingwari, Kaduna State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 201, first reading.
Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Birnungwari, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 201, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Obina Ogba on the National Sports Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Sports Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 202, first reading.
National Sports Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 202, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Gabriel Siswam on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 204, first reading.
Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 204, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu on Export Prohibition Act, Cap E22, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Repeal and Re-enactment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Export Prohibition Act, Cap E22, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2019, SB 205, first reading.
Export Prohibition Act, Cap E22, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2019 SB 205 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Sabo Mohammed on Export Prohibition Act Cap E22, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Export Prohibition Act, Cap E22, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2019, SB 206, first reading.
Export Prohibition Act Cap E22 LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2019, SB 206, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin on the Northwest Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the
Minority Leader, the Senate is waiting for Senator James, Manager, and we are waiting for you people to finish your joint meeting. Leader, you can continue.
President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jibrin Barau on the Northwest Development Commission Establishment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Northwest Development Commission Establishment Extra Bill 2019, SB 207, first reading.
Northwest Development Commission Establishment Etc. Bill 2019, SB 207, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Biodun Olujimi on the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill 2019, SB 208, first reading.
Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill 2019, SB 208, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 11th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ike Koromadu on the Private Detectives and Investigators Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Private Detective and Investigators Bill 2019, SB 210, first reading.
Private Detectives and Investigators Bill 2019, SB 210, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the 12th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Patrick Abamoro on the Federal University of Health Sciences Otupo Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Health Sciences Otupo Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 216, first reading.
Federal University of Health Sciences Otupo Benue State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 216, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Technology, Gashua Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Distinguished senators, we recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 12th November 2019. Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time. I so move.
You can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill for the establishment of Federal University of Technology, Gashua. The bill was read the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, 12 November 2019. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to establish the Federal University, Gashua, and comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration are being suggested. The establishment of this institution is informed by the imperative to create more access to university education in view of the large number of qualified candidates who are annually stranded in their failed attempt in gaining admission into university education in the Northeast. The objects of the university shall be to A, encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction the opportunity of acquiring higher education and liberal education. B, provide courses of instruction and other facilities for the pursuit of learning in all its branches, and to make those facilities available on proper terms to such persons as are equipped to benefit from them. C, encourage and promote scholarship and conduct research in restricted fields of learning and human endeavor. D, relate its activities to the social, cultural, and economic needs of the people of Nigeria. And E, to undertake other activities appropriate for a university of the highest standard. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, our economy has very high potentials and requires high-level technical, scientific, administrative skills to drive it. The establishment of this university will go a long way into achieving those targets. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this bill is well organized for its very own purpose of a modern academic and research institution. The objectives of the university, as articulated above, are supportive of its mission and broad vision of a modern institution that will develop world-class human resources that can sustainably manage our nation's economy by providing technical and management expertise at the highest level. The university, therefore, to further advance knowledge through research and nurture unique innovations, entrepreneurship, and wealth management in its core area of interest. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the enactment of this bill will help in transforming the educational fortunes of Nigeria, in producing the required manpower and expertise that Nigeria is yearning for. It should be noted that the university has since commenced academic activities. All that is required is the legal framework to aid the smooth running of the institution. This bill was extensively debated and passed by the 8th Senate, but did not receive the concurrence of the 8th House of Representatives, hence its reintroduction. In line with Order 77.3, the compendium of financial implications is hereby attached. I urge all of you, my distinguished colleagues, to support this bill for the second reading. I thank you for your attention.
Because before I call Senator Sabi to make his contribution, I want to add the information that this university has been established in 2012. So it's already a 7-year-old institution. It's not a new, I can see compendium of this. I think the leader has fulfilled all righteousness, but the university is in existence. Senator Sabi Ali Abdullahi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I am Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. I represent Niger North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to second this very bill as ably moved by the leader, that it be read the second time. And I think in doing so, I want to add that it's a very straightforward bill. The university has been established since the days of, all right. It's been established, like the Senate President has said. They are already in operation. And all that this bill seeks to do is to give them the enabling law so that they now have an act for which they can be properly guided in their administration and management. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think this issue does not require any hot debate. It's a very straightforward issue, and perhaps with these few comments, I can also ask my colleagues to support that the question be put. Thank you.
Senator Balai Bunala, who has the youngest university in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I hope the President is not bribing me to support this bill, which I intend to almost oppose, but I have found a convenient way of supporting the bill. The truth is that, Mr. President, we came from a regime that felt that power means everything, and therefore they could establish universities by fiat. There is nowhere in the world where a university is established by fiat. Legitimacy is a status, while legitimization is a process of conferring status that was not initially there. So what this bill seeks to do is to undertake the process of legitimization of the establishment of that university in Gashua. So, like the Deputy Whip have said, it's a very straightforward bill. Mr. President, what I want to urge, that in the spirit of this ninth Senate, to make sure that the entire country is footed based on the rule of law, it is important that in doing this, we should equally look at all the other universities that were established by fiat and cumulatively bring them into legal existence in accordance with the principle that we have already believed and told Nigerians we are going to do, that we will take this country from its darkest period to its lightest period, where every issue of governance is determined by law. It is on this basis that I second the establishment, the legitimization of the establishment of the Federal University of Gashua in this bill called SB 152. Thank you very much.
The Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Let me thank Leader for bringing this bill forward so that we can do what is necessary. Let me also thank Senator Sabi and my very good friend Nala for deliberately obscuring the fact that it was PDP that established
the distinguished minority leader. The university was established by the federal government of Nigeria.
Thank you. Under the PDP regime. Let me also say this, that I want to support this bill in its entirety, just to remove the negative tag of the name Gashua.
Is there any point of order?
Let it now be the university that we will use to know Gashua and not for incarceration. Thank you. I so support.
Senator Francis Adenigba, Father Onsi.
Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleague, my name is Senator Francis Adenigba Fadamsi from Osun East. I'm very, very glad to hear this, that finally we are putting serious backings of Gashua University. And I'm very happy for our guy here that during your time, there's a university.
to decongest University of Maiduguri that is already congested. We have a lot of higher institutions around there that will feed Gashuwa University, like Potisco, College of Education, Damaturu Technical College, and so on. Is going to liberate a lot of things around that area, which is a very good idea that has been brought down here. And for today, I'm very, very happy for you that the people there will be very happy, and the type of quality program they are going to undergo will liberate the whole region. And I support the whole idea, and I now seek the support of the Senate to put more funds so that it will not be like others. Because that area needs a lot of educational liberation. And with this, I wish University of Gashuwa that has come to stay good luck and prosperity. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, I think I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Gashuwa to make comprehensive provisions for EDU management and administration and for related matters 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Gashuwa to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration and for related matters 2019, second reading, taken, and the bill is referred to Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund and to put back within 4 weeks. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Ukari Establishment Etc. Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that this bill was read the first time in this chamber on 3rd October 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Emmanuel Boacha, the Deputy Minority Leader, to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
The Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Emmanuel Boacha.
Thank you, Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues. Mr. President, on a lighter note, I was sharing with my leader, I said, I'm going to liaise with the presidency of the Senate to ensure that we give his name to the boy for firing negativity on Gashuwa. So, Mr. President, I want to thank you and distinguished colleagues for this opportunity to lead the debate on this very important bill for the establishment of the Federal University Ukari. We all know, Mr. President, the significance of education, and there will be no need actually to overburden the issue because it's a sector that desires our attention. So the need to have a strong system in our educational sector, institutions of university status is very, very important. Mr. President, just like the bill we just passed, the Federal University of Ukari is among the 6 universities that were established. In 2012, it has turned out well over our 4th set of graduates since establishment. It was quite the foresight of the government then, the government of the day, as Minority Leader did say. The universities are all over the region, 6 regions. But this bill was passed in the 7th Senate. While in assenting to it, we were taken aback of its mysterious disappearance. It came up again in the 8th Senate. It was passed in the 8th Senate, but the President Commander-in-Chief raised on observations bordering on visitor in the interpretation clause to be changed to the word President. That has been taken care of in this new presentation. It was actually the only area, the only observation that was raised, and the bill was returned. It was returned at the close of the 8th Senate, so there was no sufficient time to represent the bill. And so it does not really call for most of the fireworks that is needed in this had been done. They trade the same part actually with the Federal University Gashua. So the object of the university, among others, as we are all aware, is to encourage advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction the opportunity of acquiring a higher education in science and technology. To develop and offer academic professional programs leading to the award of diploma, first degrees, postgraduate research, and higher degrees, which emphasize planning, adaptive technical maintenance, development, and productive skills in engineering, scientific, agricultural, medical, and allied professional disciplines with high moral standard and capability, not only to understand, use, and adapt to existing technology, but also to improve on it and develop new ones. To act as agent and catalyst through postgraduate training, research, innovation for the effective and economic utilization, exploitation, and conservation of the country's natural and human resources. To offer to the general population as a form of public service the result of training and research to foster the practical applications of this result. To establish appropriate relationship with other national or private institutions involved in training, research, and development of science and technology. To identify technological problems and needs of the society and to find solutions to them within the context of overall national development. It should be noted that the university has since, like appointed as Mr. President, commenced academic activities for 6 years or 7 years running now. All that is required is the needed legitimacy to continue with activities. There is no need, Mr. President, of debating this bill as the 7th and 8th Senate, like I said, debated it extensively, in which 2 public hearings were conducted. It is in view of this and many more valid points that cannot be exhausted in this short debate that I urge the support of my colleagues that this bill be read a second time. I therefore move that the bill be referred to the Committee of the Whole for the debate to continue. Let me just stop at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I think we'll take a seconder and a contribution, and then we go to Senator Basi Albert Akpan.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Mr. President, I rise to ably second this lead debate on the establishment of the Federal University will carry, and that based on the contents of the lead debate, Mr. President, we believe that exhaustive work has already been done, and an exception of the issue that was raised by the President CNC in the last administration. So, Mr. President, I therefore believe that there is not much to be said about this second motion, but to direct, as you have directed, that it should be seconded for further legislative action. I so second, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I'll put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University will carry to make comprehensive provisions for undue management and administration and for other related matters, 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Federal University will carry to make comprehensive provisions for its due management administration and for other related matters. 2019 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund to report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Criminal Code Act Amendment Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 24th September 2019. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Oluremi Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is a privilege to lead the debate on the principles of a bill for an act to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap C 38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. This bill attempts to delete portions of Section 218 and 221, amend the definition of rape as contained in Section 357, and increase punishment for the offense of kidnap in Section 364, and was first read on the floor of this Senate on Tuesday, 24th September 2019. The globally accepted aims of criminal law and the criminal justice system include deterrence, retribution, restoration, and rehabilitation of offenders. In addition, it delivers substantial justice and closure to the victim, the offender, and the state. Where a law fails to achieve any of these, it is inherently defective, hence the need for amendment. Section 218 of the Criminal Code provides that anyone who has unlawful carnal knowledge of a girl under the age of 13 or attempts same is guilty of a felony and liable to life imprisonment or 14 years imprisonment respectively. My grouse, however, is with the proviso that the prosecution of the offender must be commenced within 2 months after the offense is committed. What this does is impose a statute of limitation on prosecution of these offenses. This bar to prosecution negates the principles of natural law, equity, and good conscience. This is unattainable in a country where investigations often take longer than 2 months. Considering the shortage of police personnel relative to our population as prescribed by international standards, the 2 months limitation is unlikely to be met at all. With development and innovation in forensic technology and accessibility otherwise of such infrastructure in Nigeria, rushed investigations with a view to commencing prosecution within a 2-month period leave possibility of a huge margin of error. In the event that police proceeds to prosecute outside the 2 months, all that it will take to dispel the entire charge is a challenge to the jurisdiction of the court on the basis that it was brought outside of the time allowed by law. Section 221 suffers a similar fate, wherein it provides that where a person has or attempts carnal knowledge of a girl, being of or above the age of 13 and under the age of 16, an idiot or imbecile, he shall be liable to imprisonment for a period of 2 years, provided that the prosecution is commenced within 2 months after the offense is committed. We are at a time where these sorts of crimes are on the increase daily, which we've just gone through a motion this morning. Daily, we are regaled with the tales of children as old as a few months being defiled. Should perpetrators of such crimes be allowed to go scot-free on the basis of the technicality that prosecution did not commence within 2 months? This bill also proposes an amendment to Section 221 to substitute for the word idiot or imbecile the words mentally challenged. While words like idiot, moron, and imbecile were professionally used to measure IQ, they have acquired pejorative connotations, become derogatory and obsolete, and should be no longer contained in our laws. The Criminal Code Act defines rape in Section 357 as an offense against women. However, times indicate that there are incidents of non-consensual sex perpetrated against the male gender. This definition is particularly grievous because it perpetuates the social-cultural belief that men do not need to consent to sexual acts. In addition, we must ensure that our laws and jurisprudence evolve with the rest of the world. Section 364 provides a punishment of imprisonment for a term of 10 years where a crime of kidnap is established. For avoidance of doubt, as defined by the Act, kidnap is unlawful imprisonment of any person to prevent him from applying to a court for his release or from disclosing to any person where he is imprisoned. Simply put, stealing a living, breathing human. Curiously, the Act provides a term of 21 years for robbery, death for armed robbery. Where is the punishment for stealing property and replaceable things higher than what is obtainable when you steal a human being? The frequency of kidnaps across the Federation and its resulting trauma, not to mention the number of lives lost to the crime, make it imperative to review our laws with a view to ensuring appropriate punishment for perpetrators and deterrence for would-be perpetrators. Thus, this bill provides a life sentence for persons found guilty of kidnapping. It is my hope, distinguished colleagues, that by lending your voices in support of this amendment bill, we can check the rise of crime in our communities and ensure that those who contravene the law do not go unpunished. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in complying with Order 773, Section 777, Subsection 3 of the Senate Standing Order 2015 as amended, the prosecution of this bill has no financial implication. Therefore, I urge you all to kindly support this bill. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adamu Alero, representing KB Central. Mr. President, let me first of all thank Senator Oleremi Tinubu for bringing this very important bill. Mr. President, many people got scot-free because of the provisions of the existing Act. The issue of getting the offender prosecuted within 2 weeks, Mr. President, is rather too short. And certainly it gives room for people to escape the course of justice. And I believe the only way we can do justice to the people is to allow a period of 2 to 3 months. Mr. President, in some societies, it is only after the pregnancy has become clear that the people will know that the girl is being defiled or she has been raped. And particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, where it is an abomination for people to come out and say their daughters have been raped. So I will suggest very strongly that we should extend the timeline to about 2 months. Mr. President, I was listening to a BBC commentary last week on the fate of a girl who was raped by one prominent businessman in a particular locality. And this prominent businessman is known to be doing that act for several times. And it was only through sheer luck that the arm of the law caught up with him. The police, the district head, and other prominent leaders got hold of him in the act, and they ensured that they took him to the police, and he is now facing justice. So certainly he will be prosecuted. Mr. President, many people have suffered this kind of humiliation simply because the law is defective. So this amendment is going to give cure to that aspect of the law that is defective. So I commend the mover of this motion, also of this bill, and sorry, the sponsor of this bill, and I urge all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Basiru.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent also Central Senatorial District. I also stand to support that the bill be allowed for second reading and to go for expeditious passage. The content of the bill is very germane, particularly in advancing the war against violence among gender. Generally, limitation of statutes does not apply to criminal activities. So one wonders what was the rationale for providing 2-month period for instituting criminal proceeding in case of defilement of young ladies and the people who are mentally challenged. So I believe that the rationale, as it may be, if it were applicable when the criminal code was first drafted about 1897 and they adapted in Nigeria, I think in about 1904, is no longer applicable under the present circumstances and arrangement. In fact, as somebody who had cause to prosecute such kind of offense as an attorney general, I know how pretty difficult those technicalities had been used in aid of letting criminal or alleged suspects to go scot-free. So in terms of removal of the statute of limitation, I think it's highly commendable. And I will say that in addition, there's a need to strengthen our evidential situation, particularly as regards issue of prosecution for sexually related offenses. There have been experiences whereby possibly I've had an experience where a youth corporate doctor had the cause to carry out tests on the person that was a victim, but having been completed the service and prosecution was to go ahead, we had the challenge of how do you tender without the maker of that doctor. In terms of additional penalty for the offense of a kidnapping, and I also think that in making the offense of kidnapping to be far less in terms of punitive sanction than even stealing ordinary chattel, I think it's one of the loopholes in our law that this bill will certainly fill. So I'm happy to associate with the sponsor of the bill and to also urge colleagues to ensure that the bill is expeditiously passed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator
Mr. President, he has spoken my mind, so.
You are welcome. Senator Albert Basi Akpan.
Thank you, Mr. Capacity President of the Senate, my distinguished and respected colleague, Mr. President, Senator Albert Basi Akpan, Northeast. Mr. President, nobody is against this bill because of the consequences and the psychological damage as regards the issue of rape and other vices to the victims. I believe very strongly, Mr. President, that the amendment is apt and that the country will go to a greater extent to benefit from this amendment. Mr. President, I also believe that, based on the lead debate, that the issue of kidnapping should equally be given the absolute punishment level as that of armed robbery. And also when it comes to the issue of rape, Mr. President, women, sometimes we also raped by women. So I think I also support that amendment that should also be as open as possible, such that the same applicable punishment that is applied to men who rape women can also be applied to women who will also rape some of us. So I thank Mr. President, and I thank the Mother of the Senate for bringing this. I support in totality. Thank you, Mr. President.
Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I want to add my voice to the earlier speakers in support of this amendment. Mr. President, the development of a country's jurisprudence is also a key factor in assessing the state of development of that country. And in this case, what our colleague has sought to do is to amend the Criminal Code Act, which since has been begging for amendment, in fact, as also the Penal Code as well. And I think this is a bold step in the right direction. I am particularly excited about the aspect of technicality that it seeks to address, because a lot of people have fallen victim of this particular aspect. That you see clearly somebody has committed an infraction, and because there is a window where he can explore, through legal fireworks, and such a person is allowed to go scot-free. This has been happening, and I think gradually these issues will be addressed as we go along or as our legal system develops. I want also to add that the development that is taking place in the various states in exercise of their stakes as provided for in the concurrent list, even in taking bold steps to address cases of kidnapping, is also commendable, because some of the states actually have gone ahead to even introduce very hard sanctions against kidnappers. And I think this is quite commendable, and I want to support this bill and thank our sister for this bold step. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bala Ibn Na'Allah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleague. My intervention here is to bring to the notice of the Senate that the criminal code that is sought to be amended by this bill is only applicable to the southern states of the country, as it is. And the northern states of the country apply what is referred to as the penal code. Now, individual states in the southern states have equally gone further to domesticate the applicability of the criminal procedure code. Now, the intent of this bill is to make it of general application in Nigeria. And that is why we must commend Madam for taking this very, very good initiative. However, we will continue to raise these issues so that when the committee that is vested with the responsibility to look at this will bring an all-encompassing position that will not run foul of the provision of our Constitution, but that will still find some comfort in its general applicability to the entire country. Secondly, Mr. President, I'm happy that Dr. Sirajuddin has made it very clear. The issue of rape has been a very, very difficult provision in our status. And it dates back to even when we received the English laws. Salahuddin will tell you, under section 45(1), cap 89 of the Interpretation Act, we received this and then adopted it, do I say in toto or mutatis mutandis? But while, I will give you the difficulty now, while the law itself says unlawful carnal knowledge, this provision is seeking to extend the issue of rape to the other opposite sex too. Now, if it's going to be an unlawful carnal knowledge, when you intend to apply it on the opposite side, what are you going to say? Now, our courts have done some efforts to raise what is called the ingredients of the offense, which I do not want to initiate here because of the nature of the offense. But I think that
we are trying to make a law So in debates, there should be no hold barred. Say anything, everything that will guide us.
President, the ingredients of the offense of rape, Mr. President, at the committee level, we'll try to see what we can do to dance around the matter. Thank you.
You are protected. I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to amend the Criminal Code Act, Cap C38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to delete the statute of limitation on defilement, increase in punishment for the offenses of kidnapping, remove gender restrictions in the offense of rape, and for related matters, 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Criminal Code Act Cap C38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to delete the statute of limitation on defilement, increase in punishment for the offenses of kidnapping, remove gender restrictions in the offense of rape, and for related matters 2019, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters to report back within 4 weeks. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues. The fourth order of the day is the second reading of the National Land Drainage Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 13th November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Mohammed Sani Musa to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Mohammed Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. I'm here to lead the debate on a bill for the National Land Drainage, Flood Control, and Other Related Matters Bill 2019. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of this bill, which seeks to make provisions to address issues relating to land drainages and flooding in Nigeria, which has become a recurring menace that has been ravaging most of our settlements, farmlands, and environments. The bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 13th November 2019. My debate is to convince you all, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on how important this bill is and on the need to take the right measures to stop the persistent occurrence of flood due to lack of planned drainage system in our country and the need for such measures to control flood and erosion. Flooding is a natural phenomenon which cannot be prevented entirely. It can happen at any time, and there are consequent risks to people, property, infrastructure, and the natural environment. Flooding originates from four main sources: fluvial flooding, flooding for reservoirs, which can occur if the reservoirs fail structurally, and the fourth one, the coastal flooding. Coastal flooding occurs when inundation from the sea takes place along coastal areas as a result of a combination of high tides, storm surge, and wave actions. The need for a development plan as a way forward. Essentially, the bill seeks to create a working synergy and consultation between development control departments and water and river basins in the strategic planning of issues relating to flood and risk management right from the early stage. As we all know, development can exacerbate flooding, and identifying the important role that the planning system has in managing development can in a way reduces the risks and impacts of flooding. When enacted into law, this bill will prevent inappropriate new developments in areas known to be risks of flooding or that may increase the risk of flooding elsewhere. It will encourage and manage development in ways that are appropriate and also seek to protect development that is permitted in flood-risk areas by ensuring that adequate and appropriate measures are employed to mitigate and manage flood risk. My distinguished colleagues, the very essence of this bill, Mr. President, is to promote sustainable development through the retention and restoration of natural floodplains and watercourses as a form of flood alleviation, thereby encouraging the use of sustainable drainage system for new development and redevelopment, and promote public awareness of flood risk information that is available. Since 2012, flood has remained a recurring menace in Nigeria. Lives have been lost, people have been displaced from their homes and their properties destroyed. Farms have been submerged, leaving farmers wailing due to the destruction of their crops. The losses are quite enormous. Available records show that the 2012 flood, which began in early July, killed almost about 363 people. It also displaced over 2.1 million people across the 30 states of the 36 states of the Federation. Where the floods occurred, the calamity ended in deaths and destructions. Unfortunately for the victims, the National Hydrological Service Agency had warned as early as April when it released its annual flood outlook that some states in the country will experience flooding. In August, the agency gave an update where it stated that 15 states and the FCT had already experienced one form of flooding or the other, with about 100 deaths recorded. These forewarnings did not, however, instigate strong preemptive steps by the local, state, and federal government that could have checkmated the menace or substantially mitigate its effects. In Niger State, this year has also witnessed several incidences of flood. Example is the most recent flooding in Mina, which lives were lost and properties destroyed. Same in Paiko, Kota, Suleja, Boso, and Munya, all in my constituency. In Lagos State, there has also been several incidences of floods this year. Even residents of high-brow areas such as Lekki, Victoria Garden City, Aja, even Ikeja experienced flash floods that wreaked havoc in many homes, sometimes sweeping away individuals. In Rivers State, large number of persons have been displaced by flood, while communities submerged, and the state has continued to suffer persistent flooding. Just as it happened in Yobe State, where a whole community was awash by flood menace. Parts of Anambra State also got flooded in this year's flood menace, which caused destruction of properties, including farmlands. Cross River State also got its own share of flood as heavy downpour in September and early October resulted in flood that destroyed houses, farms, and communities. These incidences of flood run all over Nigeria, from the states I have mentioned above to other states of the country. There have also been floods in Abia, to Imo, to Ondo, to Kebbi State. Overview of the contents of this bill. Preamble. The bill aims and objectives and application are as follows. The bill therefore seeks to institutionalize inter alia the following: the development and implementation of a land drainage master plan to address all issues militating against the drainage system in Nigeria by canvassing a policy for developing and upgrading the system of drainage with a view to addressing floods. B, carrying out an inventory and mapping of all the existing natural and man-made drainage infrastructure. C, identifying in collaboration with the local authorities, FEMA, NEMA, NESRI, and any other relevant stakeholder flood risk areas. D, coordinating the construction of drainage infrastructure by the local authorities, FEMA, NEMA, NESRI, and any other relevant stakeholder. E, ensuring that there is a routine and periodic upgrading and maintenance of the drainage infrastructure and ensuring that researches are embarked upon to bring to view a flood risk map. The highlights of this bill are: 1, ensure industry best practice for the management and maintenance in addressing flood and erosion by providing the necessary drainage for a strategic approach to flood risks. For a strategic approach to flood risks to be adopted by ensuring that new development is not unnecessarily exposed to flooding, while having regard to the cumulative effects of existing development within the settlement's limits. 2, assess flood's impact upon both individuals and communities, the social and economic environmental consequences. Now, flooding of urban areas can result in significant damage to private property, including homes and businesses. 3, develop flood risk management plans to promote drainage as a key element of design and support the use of sustainable and innovative approaches for future development. It is my humble view that if this bill is allowed to pass, it will start to address these menace of flood and erosion with eventual resolution, as we cannot continue to depend on emergency interventions and allowing temporary succors. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I solicit your support for the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
I need a seconder. Senate Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Robert Ajayi Borofis. I rise to second this motion and also plead with our colleagues to support it for second reading. The issue of flooding will continue to confront us for a very long time because of the fundamental cause which is in climate change. If we observe what is happening in the Arctic area, the rate at which the ice is melting is so high that the volume of water in the ocean is also increasing. The carbon emission is going on unabated, despite the efforts of countries coming together to see how the rate of carbon emission is reduced. As long as we continue to have increase in carbon emission, also increasing the temperature in the form of climate warming, we continue to have flooding. So what the sponsor of this bill is asking is a comprehensive comprehensive solution to this problem, particularly in the coastal area where we have, which is the economic zone of this country, where we have the oil rigs and where a lot of oil exploration is going on. So there's a need for us to address this problem seriously because of its economic consequence. I therefore rise to support this bill and also plead with my colleagues to also support it for second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Brian Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I actually support this bill because of its importance. In addition to what the Chief Whip or the Deputy Senate Leader said, there is also an area that we have to control, particularly the development control of each state, because they have to look at this very carefully. Before approving any development to be done, they will have to look at exactly the right of way of water. That is where the water flows. Because you see, if you really contract the area, the surface area, then what happens is that you pressurize that area. And when you pressurize it, what happens is that you are going to have a problem, because by Pascal's principle, water or pressure finds itself anywhere. So that means when you exert pressure, pressure is equal to force divided by cross-sectional area. So if the cross-sectional area is high, the pressure will be low. If the cross-sectional area is very low, then the pressure is going to be high, and it's going to uproot some buildings somewhere, and there is going to be a float. And because of that, people don't look at the development when they are doing it. The problem of reclamation is there also. So that is why I think it's very, very fundamental to have the development control to look at that area, see where the reclamation is going to be done, to what percentage is going to be done of the bank of the river, and then also find out exactly when they are going to the reclamation. And then the development control should tell them when and how to do it. If they are able to do it, then I don't think we would have this problem. I wholeheartedly support this.
Okay, is there anybody against the bill? Sorry? Okay, constitutional point of order. Surajuddin Bashiru.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent Osun Central Senatorial District. My point of order is based on Section 4, Subsection 7 of the 1999 Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court in the case of Attorney General of the Federation and Attorney General of Lagos State, which is reported in 2013 Law Pavilion Electronic Law Report 20974 SC. The essence of the decision of the Supreme Court in that case that when it comes to issue of urban and regional planning, it is within the residual powers of the states under Section 4, Section 7. While the philosophy of the proposed bill is commendable, as has been said by distinguished senators, I want to call our attention on the need to exercise caution in drafting the bill in such a way that it does not overlap to the area of the fundamental control. Because from the discussion of the aspects in the lead debate and also from one of the contributing senators, issue was raised about using developmental control to achieve the purpose of the bill, which is flood control and drainages. If that's the case, there may be constitutional issues as to whether the bill is about developmental control or actually environmental, law, issue. So the essence of the point of order is to ensure that the instrumentality of the law to achieve the purpose and the goal of the bill must not be seen as part of developmental control, which comes within the framework of urban and regional planning, which has been said by the Supreme Court to be within residual power of the state based on Section 4, Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anybody against the bill? Okay, Senate Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the distinguished senator has raised a fundamental issue here. I would not have really spoken, but for the import of the issues that he has raised, the constitutional issues that are involved. Distinguished colleagues, those who are in the 8th Senate will recall that there was this National Water Resources Bill or something to that effect that came in. I think it had even gone after the second reading. But when he came in here, we are going through close by close, very interesting debate. It generated a lot of interesting debate. And some part of the debate was really harping on the issues which the distinguished senator is raising, the constitutional matters. There are several other issues also having to do with the newer bill and general issue having to do with the riparian structure of the nation and which part of the government has jurisdiction to make laws for which aspect. So I think the water resources management sector is a very, very complicated legislative arena. I wouldn't want to prejudge what is going to happen to this particular bill when it comes to public hearing at that level. But I know that by the time we do whatever is necessary and do the public hearing, even when it comes here, some of these issues are bound to come up. So I would suggest that the issues that have been raised In the earlier water resources bill, even though it has not been presented to that 9th Senate, should also be taken very much into account when we come to discuss these particular issues at the public hearing or at the committee level. So I want to draw the attention of the committee that after this referral, I think it is very, very important for the committee to consider this bill along with some of the issues that have been raised on the legality of making legislation in certain areas or addressing the issues of legislative competence of the various tiers of government given our federal structure and the admonishment of our constitution. I so submit, Mr. President.
Okay, I will put the question, please. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to make provisions to address issues related to land drainage and flood control and for related matters 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to make provisions to address issues relating to land drainage and flood control and for related matters 2019, second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Environment and to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the fifth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin and 6 others on the need for expeditious completion of the rail line from Ajakuta to Kogi State to Otukpo in Benue State. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin to move the motion.
Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President,